guitarist went to the hospital with his missus because he's having a baby. Didn't think she was going to turn up, but then he turned up halfway through, so I looked like a lying bastard. Yeah, we're going to go and do mad drugs now. So there you go. Some meth. Big into meth at the moment. Yeah. Thanks.
Lostprophets were a Welsh rock band that was first formed in 1997. They spawned various singles and 5 albums, but they are perhaps best, or worst, remembered for their lead singer and the heinous crime that he committed. There's a lot more to it than that, ranging from EPs, behind-the-scenes stuff, and more. And of course, there are many members of the band. So today, we'll be taking a look into the Lostprophets Iceberg. For whatever reason you don't know what an iceberg is, it's a list of things centered around a certain topic that gets more obscure the deeper you go. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. Ian Watkins. We'll start off strong with what is possibly the worst singer in existence. Full name Ian David Carslake Watkins. He was born July 30th, 1977 in Wales, and was of course the lead singer of Lostprophets. I'm going to keep it brief, but if you don't know, there's a video in the description that talks about it. But huge trigger warning if you decide to look this one up. Basically, this below human being committed the worst crime imaginable. Make of that what you will. He was caught in possession of a mobile phone while in prison in 2018, leading to his sentence being extended. As of 2024, he is still in prison and is currently held at HMP Wakefield. And you would think that he'd feel a tremendous amount of guilt for this, right? Well, according to this comment I found, he couldn't care less. You can pause the video if you want to read it. Oh, and he openly admitted that he hated Chester Bennington, just in case he needed another reason to hate him.
The singer was a cock. I remember when we were opening for them.
Linkin Park.
Yeah, the singer of Linkin Park is a fucking tool as well.
You're not the first person I've heard say that.
He's a fucking...
The rest of the band are nice.
The rest of the band are really, really cool, but that singer is a fucking tit.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's just an idiot. He's an idiot.
Or does he just think he's got the rock star?
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, totally.
Last Train Home. Arguably the most successful single, Last Train Home is actually the second single from their second album, Start Something, the first single being Burn Burn. It was released 2 months before the album itself on December 27th, 2003, to critical acclaim. Until Rooftops came into the picture, which we'll talk about in a minute, it was their biggest single in the UK. Some more things to note are its inclusion in NFL Street, which was released a month before the song itself, and it is the song that introduced Jeff Rickley to Lostprophets. We'll go back to him in a little bit, but in an article with Entertainment Weekly he said the following, quote, "I don't even know the name of it, but I remember there was a video and a shit ton of people, and the chorus was like, 'We sing if we're going nowhere,' and I was like, that's a hell of a chorus." At the time, I was probably annoyed by them, because I was annoyed by everybody at the time. In the early 2000s, when Thursday was doing well, I felt so many of our peers were corny, and I was really, really critical. But when I heard that song, I was like, alright, that's a good chorus. Rooftops. Rooftops, a Liberation broadcast, or simply known as Rooftops, is the first single from Liberation Transmission, released on June 19th, 2006. Albeit it was released earlier in the US, on May 16th. It is widely considered to be one of their greatest songs, with it being the band's second highest charting song in the US, being beaten only by the aforementioned Last Train Home. I respectfully disagree with this sentiment, as I think there's some other songs on the album that are better than this, but hey, that's just my opinion. Start Something. Start Something is Lostprophets' second album, released on February 2nd, 2004 in the UK and Asia, and released the next day in North America. This is the last album to feature founding drummer Mike Chiplin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who will be replaced by Elon Rubin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The album is their most successful, being basically putting Lostprophets on the map. Unlike the next album though, this album went platinum in the UK and gold in the United States. Since it's not on the iceberg, I'll mention this one here. So a little while after I posted the iceberg photo on Instagram, someone commented that Burn Burn was supposed to be on the Project Cars 2 soundtrack, but it was removed due to Ian. The song did, however, appear on the soundtrack of FIFA Football 2004, so thanks again for pointing this one out. Liberation Transmission. Liberation Transmission is the third Lostprophets album, being released on June 26, 2006. It was produced by Bob Rock, who you might better know for producing Metallica albums such as the Black Album, or perhaps most infamously, Saint Anger. Unfortunately, despite Rooftops being a massive success, the album flopped in comparison to Start Something and therefore isn't RIAA certified as of 2023, and probably never will be. It is also the only album to feature the aforementioned Elon Rubin, who played drums on Everybody's Streaming and For All These Times. Ian tweets. This could refer to two things: Ian's Twitter account, and no, I'm not going to call it X, or in this case, a fan account on Instagram that, as the name suggests, just posts a bunch of Ian's old tweets. There is one that I want to point out though, and that is his last one from December 16th, 2012, that reads, "Well, that escalated pretty quickly. I do apologize." For context, 2 hours earlier he had ended up on a Twilight movie while channel surfing, after which he posted a tweet that read, "Turns out the Home and Away-esque movie with really shit CGI and worse acting, it's on TV right now, is actually one of those Twilight films." End quote. He then proceeded to go on a mad live tweeting spree where he rightfully tore it to pieces. The above tweet was posted 45 minutes after it ended. While he is more than likely referring to his live tweeting earlier, this tweet is most well remembered because posted a mere 3 days before his arrest. So yeah, if you want to see what he was up to, go check it out. A Town Called Hypocrisy. A Town Called Hypocrisy is the second single from the aforementioned Liberation Transmission, released on September 11th, 2006. The music video is themed around a fictional children's TV show, presumably based on those from the 70s or 80s. It is pretty interesting to say the least, so if you want to check it out, it'll be in the description below. Out of Control. This is the lead single from Hoobastank's second studio album, The Reason. It was released in November 2003, a little over a month before the album came out. Ian and Jamie lend their voices to the song's chorus, but that's about it. Megalols. The term megalols was a sort of catchphrase used by the band, being prominently featured on merchandise, and once at Reading 2010, where they performed with banners behind them that read megalols. From what I could gather, it originated from some forum where a random user decided to use the phrase in a post. At some point, Ian, or someone in the band, noticed it, and the rest, as they say, is history. The term is perhaps most infamous due to a conversation Ian had over the phone with a fan while in prison. Following his plea, he had told this fan that in his statement the following day, he was going to state that, quote, "it was megalols." Understandably, the fan told him this was a terrible idea, so instead he simply responded by saying, "it is just lol now," because that will totally alleviate the situation he's in, won't it? On a different note, it should also be noted that Lostprophets fan site called megalols.com existed at one point. Believe it or not, it was actually not shut down as a result of Ian's crime. Instead, it was shut down a year prior to that, in April of 2011 due to a lack of interest, but you can still access it via the Wayback Machine. Spotify. For years, the entire discography of Lostprophets was no longer available on Spotify, and understandably so. For a while, in some parts of the world, not all of the albums were delisted, it seems. Apparently, Weapons was left up on the US version for a while, though it was since taken down. While one Reddit user claimed that a, quote, crappy 6-track album from 2010, likely referring to The Betrayed, was all that remained. The exact reason for this is debated, though it's pretty easy to point the finger at Ian for these albums' removal. One user pointed out that Visible Noise, label that distributed the first 4 albums, did not renew their license for their catalog in the US or Australia. And for a while, that's just how I went about it. It was just generally accepted that Lostprophets would never be available on Spotify ever again. That would all change earlier this year when most of the albums, sans Weapons, were suddenly relisted out of nowhere on June 6th. A few weeks later, on June 20th, Weapons would be relisted, making the entire catalog available once again. So yes, you can go listen to them right now, or at least when you're done watching the video. And with that being said, that wraps up the first layer. Let's move on to layer 2. No Devotion. No Devotion is a band formed in April 2014 by the former members of Lostprophets, this time with singer Jeff Rickley. Basically, it's the members of the band sans Ian. The first album, Permanence, was released in 2015, during which drummer Luke Johnson announced his departure from the band. The rest of the drums would go on to be recorded by former Block Party drummer Matt Tong. Their second album, No Oblivion, was released in September 2022. As of now, the group currently consists of Rickley, Lee Gaze, and bassist Stuart Richardson. And speaking of which, Lee Gaze. Lee Gaze was the lead guitarist of Lostprophets and later No Devotion. Much like Ian, he too grew up in Pontypridd. He formed his first band in 1991, which recorded their only demo, Discontent. When he and Ian got tired with their next band going nowhere, they dissolved it and formed Lostprophets. Lee is likely also the man responsible for putting the old albums back up on Spotify. This comes from a DM exchange with Ian_Twatkins on Instagram. You can pause the video if you want to read it. According to them, they visited Lee's Twitter account at the time, and he was discussing with fans about putting the old catalog back up. Whatever was going on, it did indeed work, and I agree. It is indeed good to know he hasn't abandoned the fanbase after all these years. Thanks again to Ian_Twatkins for letting me use his message. Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja. Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja was the first ever Lostprophets single, being released in 2001. It is the only single from the Fake Sound of Progress that made it on the Billboard charts, and up until the last concert in November 2012, it was one of the only songs from the album that was consistently on the band's setlist. The title is derived from 2 games, the 1987 hack-and-slash game Shinobi, and the 1988 beat-em-up Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, also known as simply Bad Dudes in the American NES version, or Dragon Ninja in Japan and Europe. The Fake Sound of Progress. The Fake Sound of Progress is the first Lostprophets album and spawned 2 singles, Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja, which we just discussed, and the title track. The band were unsatisfied with the original version, and this was where the title of Start Something came from. Interestingly, there's actually 2 music videos of Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja. Why they did this, I'm not sure, but both of them are on YouTube if you want to see them. Forza Horizon. Forza Horizon is a series of racing games exclusive to the Xbox series of consoles, being a spin-off of the Forza Motorsport series. Now you're probably wondering why this is on the iceberg, because this is a Lostprophets Iceberg, not a Forza Horizon one. The reason why is because the songs Bring 'Em Down and We Bring an Arsenal from the then newly released Weapons were featured in the first Forza Horizon as part of the in-game Horizon Rocks radio station, which later became Horizon XS in later games. Horizon 1 released on October 23, 2012, just 2 months before Ian's arrest. As far as I'm aware, these songs are still in the game and you can still listen to them. I do not have the game, so I can't confirm this, but yeah. Need for Speed Underground. Keeping with the theme of racing games here, Need for Speed Underground was released on November 17th, 2003. The song To Hell We Ride appears in the game. although for obvious reasons it was censored to just Ride. At the time, the album itself, Start Something, wouldn't be released for another 3 months or so. Burn Burn had just been released earlier that same month. There's also a skyline in the game with a Lostprophets livery that you can unlock with 1,721,000 style points. Missed show incident. During the band's Warped Tour in 2012, bassist Stuart Richardson got into a fight with Ian after the latter missed a show following a relapse. In a PRP article, Richardson said this: "So I come off the stage, livid, go on the bus, Ian's on the bus, and I'm like, nice one. And he gives me some shit. And I black out and I'm laying punches into his face. I'm not proud of it, but I'm laying punches into his face for 10 seconds or 10 minutes. I don't know. And I'm a big boy compared to him, so I'm not proud of this. And then he gives me this look after I hit him. And I had this can of Monster Energy in my hand and I smashed this can into his head. And I'm like, fuck. I go outside and puke. And for the next 3 weeks he's like black eyes cut on his face and I'm like feeling horrible about the whole thing. And that's what I did when he missed a show. So yeah, TLDR, Ian missed an entire show and rightfully got his proverbial rear end beaten for it. We Are Godzilla, You Are Japan. This is a song from the album Start Something, being the 12th song on the album. For some reason, it is omitted from the US release of the album. In that version, after last summer, it just goes straight into Sway, which replaces it as the 12th song. I actually have the CD of this album, and it's actually how I first knew about it. Why they decided to leave it out of the US version specifically is unknown, but luckily it's available on YouTube and Spotify. Weapons. Weapons is the 5th and final studio album from the band, released on April 2nd, 2012. It was, of course, the last album that was released before Ian was arrested. The album spawned 3 singles, Bring 'Em Down, We Bring an Arsenal, and Jesus Walks. The latter two, as previously mentioned, appeared in Forza. There was one more single planned, but we'll get back to that later on. The band would also embark on the band's Warped Tour for the first and only time from July 12th to August 1st, and played one show on the UK leg on November 10th. The former marked the first time in 6 years that the band would play in the States, and unfortunately the last time that they would do so. 4 days after the UK leg of Warped Tour on November 14th, the band played what would be their final ever show at the Newport Centre in Wales, with Burn Burn being the last song that the band ever played live. A month later, well, you know what happened from there. Covers. On some singles, the band would include, as the entry says, covers. A few examples include A View to a Kill, a Duran Duran cover from the Fake Sound of Progress single, Cry Me a River from the Last Train Home single, and Sweet Dreams My Ellie X from the Last Summer single. All of these can be easily found on YouTube. L'Amour L'Amouric. L'Amour L'Amouric was a side project of Ian. Basically, it consisted of this douche wearing a face mask and sunglasses acting like he's Corey Taylor of Slipknot while wearing a glove with lights or something. Oh, and he did remixes of various songs, I guess. One of them was a remix of For He's a Jolly Good Felon from The Betrayed. Supposedly, he also did a free mixtape and a download of a song from a fashion show sometime in 2008. The project even had its own website, however, likely because of the obvious, it has been omitted from the Wayback Machine, meaning it is now forever lost to time. The side project would also be the center of a strange occurrence in November 2016. Around this time, out of nowhere, Ian's Twitter account had somehow started posting again. It should be noted right away that this couldn't have been Ian, as the phone retrieved from him in 2023 was the size of a P90 pickup. Anyways, the post included clips of remixes between this side project and another SoundCloud user by the name of Mega Lels, which is an obvious play on Mega Lols. The old Lostprophets website, which we'll get back to, now displayed a single page describing them as, quote, the straight-edge British metal band, end quote, before once again being taken down. Unfortunately, this enigma wasn't archived on the Wayback Machine, and unless a screenshot is by some miracle provided, it is most likely forever lost. Since then, Ian's accounts have once again become dormant. Nobody knows who or what caused this, and bizarrely, the Megalil's account has since been banned from Twitter for violating terms of service. If you want to know more about this, there is a video I've linked in the description that talks about it. Reading 2004. On August 29th, 2004, Lostprophets played the main stage at the Reading Festival. It would go on to play 3 more times in 2007, 2009, and 2010. So you're probably wondering why this one in particular is on the iceberg. This performance was shown on pay-per-view and as such gave us, as far as I'm aware, the only pro-shot performance of Sway, the last song from Start Something, and the longest Lostprophets song, clocking it at 10 minutes and 32 seconds on the album. There are also HD performances of the fake sound of Progress and Last Train Home, which implies that a higher quality recording of the concert exists. If true, this will likely never surface anytime soon because of what Ian did, leaving us with the full concert being in potato quality. There is one user that did splice the potato quality recording with HD clips, so go check it out if you want to. Should also be noted that Lostprophets did play the Reading Festival in 2001, and that is actually available on YouTube. I had originally said that it wasn't, but I recently found it while looking for footage for this video. It appears that this is indeed the full concert, with the exception of Miles Away from Nowhere, which is mostly missing, and only has the interlude in it. The other 3 festivals recordings are pretty easy to find. And that wraps up the second layer. Let's move on to layer 3. Unreleased album. In 2007, Lostprophets debuted several new songs for He's a Jolly Good Felon, Next Up Atrocity, The Dead, and Weapon. We'll discuss the last one at the end of this tier. Originally, Bob Rock was asked to produce the album, but he wouldn't be able to record with them until 2009. To make matters worse, the band left their US record label Columbia, who were replaced by Sony. Unlike some other Lost Media cases where the band records a few songs and throws in the towel halfway through, this was an album that was practically finished to the tune of $500,000. It wasn't until 2010 when the band released their 4th album, The Betrayed. Most of the songs from this scrapped album were released on subsequent albums. The songs Next Stop Atrocity, where He's a Jolly Good Felon, and It's Not the End of the World, But I Can See It From Here, were re-recorded for release on The Betrayed. Save Yourself, The Dead, Weapon, which we'll get to, and If You Don't Stand for Something You'll Fall for Anything were released on the deluxe editions of Weapons. This leaves 4 songs that remain lost. The names of these songs were revealed by Kerrang in January 2008, and afterwards were never mentioned again. The songs are as follows: Credible vs. Incredible, The Morning Rain, What Seems to Be the Problem Officer, and She's with the Band. It's unknown if these songs still exist in any form, and if they do, it's unlikely that they will ever surface. It's also unknown how many songs were actually recorded. Jesus Walks. This is the 3rd single from Weapons and the final ever single released by the band, released on September 10th, 2012. Other than that, there's not much to say. For He's a Jolly Good Felon. This is the 3rd single from the band's 4th album, The Betrayed, released on April 11th, 2010. It has a sizable amount of formats: a 7-inch vinyl version, the obligatory digital download because this is 2010, the aforementioned L'Amour L'Amour remix version, and an iTunes single which includes a live recording. Prior Talk. For the longest time, this was the only Lostprophets related media available on Spotify. The audio lasts for 3 minutes and 26 seconds, and for the longest time, it was believed that it was Ian rambling. Though once again, thanks to Ian_Twatkins, it was revealed that this was actually Jamie. If you're interested, go check it out. Interviews. This, as the entry suggests, refers to old interviews with the band that were recorded. There's a ton of them that have been preserved, and for the most part they're pretty easy to find on YouTube. So if you want to go see them, go check them out.
Me. So I'm not alone, am I? We are backstage at Ozfest 2002. We have people well up for it, but also we welcome the Lostprophets. Who have we got? Yeah. Lovely cheers for everybody else and for the Lostprophets. Now they have very kindly taken time out because they're about to go live to the main stage at Ozfest and play.
The Full Ponty. The Full Ponty is a now defunct music festival that was held in Pontypridd, hosted by a TV show known as The Pop Factory. It was held in Yidney Singh Herod Park. I probably just butchered that. Usually in late May. The name is actually a reference to a 1997 British comedy film called The Full Monty. It was only held twice in 2006 and 2007, with Lostprophets headlining the latter festival on May 26, 2007. The full performance is available on YouTube, albeit it is in potato quality. There are, however, 3 songs that are in higher quality: Everybody Screaming, The Fake Sound of Progress, and 4 AM Forever. The 2008 festival was cancelled due to what the organizers claimed was a lack of big-name acts. Since then, it has been largely forgotten, and not helping matters is the fact that the Pop Factory, which was the show that hosted the event, went off the air in 2008 with no replacement. Because of this, it is unlikely that it will ever be revived now. Lostprophets.com. This was a now defunct website that hosted a variety of content from the band, including merch, tour dates, updates from the band, and some bonus content. You know, the usual stuff you can expect from a band's website. For a while after Ian's arrest, since late December 2012, the site simply showed a statement by the band that read, quote-unquote, "Following charges made today against Ian Watkins, we find ourselves in a state of shock. We are learning about the details of the investigation along with you. It is a difficult time for us and our families, and we want to thank our fans for their support as we seek answers. Jamie, Lee, Luke, Mike, and Stu. 19 December 2012. It stayed like this for quite a while until around July or August 2013. The website appeared to have been taken offline. By this point, it just showed this. Around late to mid-October, the URL appeared to have been bought out, as it now redirected to a generic fashion website. Trying to access the website now will redirect you to some scam site, but the original can still be accessed via the Wayback Machine. Region exclusive songs. This, as the name implies, refers to songs that were exclusive to a given region's version of an album or single. As mentioned before, the US did not get We Are Godzilla, You Are Japan, and a song titled AC Ricochet was exclusive to the Japanese version of The Betrayed. With the advent of YouTube, though, these songs were made available to everyone, and you can go check them out if you want to. B-sides. These are simply the songs included with the album singles. Those would vary from demos, live recordings, covers, or even acoustic versions of songs, as seen in the Last Train Home single, which has an acoustic version of Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja. There are exceptions to this, however. The vinyl releases of Rooftops, 4 AM Forever, and Where We Belong have etched designs on the back instead of music. Well, the rest of the world did. For some reason, likely due to the lackluster reception to the previous album, it wasn't released here in North America, which means that for us, Weapons is the official 4th album. That being said, you can still buy it from Discogs and such. And of course it is available on YouTube if you want to check it out. Pontypridd. Pontypridd, colloquially known as Ponty, is a town in Wales where the members of Lostprophets formed the band. Ian met Mike Lewis while attending Hawthorne High School, and in 1991 he was introduced to the aforementioned Lee Gaze. In a 2007 interview, the band stated that the nearby Parkview Cafe is the inspiration for the title of what will become Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja. I'm just gonna let the clip play here because, well, it pretty much summarizes what I was gonna say here.
Have you got any songs about Pontypridd?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja was written, the whole song is about nostalgia and is about the Shinobi game which we used to play in Parkview Cafe, which is called Parkview Cafe for a reason. It provides a nice view of the park in a cafe surrounding. Everybody's screaming.
BBC ban. Understandably, after Ian having committed such a heinous crime, BBC decided to ban the entire Lostprophets catalog. Previously, the only other discography that was banned was that of Alan Bush. However, that ban was only in effect from March to June of 1941. To this day, the former ban is still in effect and probably will be forever. Weapon. To end this layer, we'll discuss the slight enigma of a song, which, despite the name, has no relation to the band's final album, Weapons. Well, it does, but we'll get to that. Weapon was one of the songs from the previously mentioned unreleased follow-up to Liberation Transmission. There are actually two versions of the song, which are slightly different. The original demo version was played on BBC Radio 1 in August of 2007, and the only recording we have of it, which you are about to hear, you can hear Zane Lowe's voice at the beginning.
Check it.
It was subsequently rejected from the album. A second version of the song, or a re-recorded version of it, would eventually be released on the deluxe version of Weapons and as a hidden track on the normal version. On some versions it is hidden after the Block Party remix of Bring 'Em Down. And that does it for layer 3. Now let's move on to the fourth layer, and it's gonna get a lot more obscure from here. Ian's password. This refers to the password which authorities found when they bypassed it to gain access to Ian's laptop. For obvious reasons, I can't say it here, but it's pretty easy to find, though once again, huge trigger warning if you decide to look this up. You just answered it. This refers to this infamous scene from a live Q&A on MySpace.
Baby girl, what's your guilty pleasure?
Right, said Fred.
I just answered it amongst the
Right, said Fred.
If you were watching on it,
Did he say? I didn't hear it.
Fake Sound of Progress 2000 original. Not many people know this, but there are two versions of the Fake Sound of Progress. The original 2000 version is a lot less polished than the second version, as it was originally supposed to be just another demo. It was recorded in 1 week for about £4,000, which with inflation is £7,378, or $9,484 today. This intended demo was of course released on Visible Noise in late 2000. Understandably, the band was unsatisfied with it and decided to re-record it. In 2001, the album was partially re-recorded and remixed. The second and more common version was released on October 8, 2001 in the UK, and a month later in the US. The remastered version is the first album to feature Jamie Oliver, who replaced the DJ from the original. We'll come back to that. Some things to note are the shorter runtime, with the remaster clocking it at 49 minutes 48 seconds, as opposed to the original's 52 minutes 17 seconds. The re-recorded title track was also 0.25 times faster than the original. I actually uploaded the original version at that speed on my channel if you want to see it. The obscure intro from the original was removed entirely, as in the remake it jumps straight into Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja, and the interludes are merged at the ends of the songs preceding them and shortened. This last change would later be carried over to Start Something. Since then, the original version from 2000 is now hard to find, though there are some copies listed for sale on Discogs. It is not available on Spotify, as only the second version was made available, but it can easily be found on YouTube. Acoustic songs. This entry is what it is. Occasionally, the band would record or even perform acoustic versions of their songs. These include Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja, which was released in the Last Train Home single, Last Summer, which was performed on Buzz Radio sometime in 2006, and 2 songs from Weapons, Bring 'Em Down and We Bring an Arsenal. The latter 2 were released on some versions of the Weapons Deluxe Edition. All these have been uploaded to YouTube and are pretty easy to find. Hostage incident. On August 5th of last year, Ian was taken hostage by inmates. He was then stabbed with a sharpened toilet brush before officers freed him after 6 hours. To the disappointment of many, the injuries were not life-threatening, and he is unfortunately still around. As for the attack itself, it was apparently motivated by an unsettled drug debt of 900 pounds with another prisoner. Normally I wouldn't promote this sort of thing, but in his case, here's hoping his fellow inmates finish the job next time. Someday's music video. Lostprophets' final album Weapons only spawned 3 singles: Bring 'Em Down, We Bring an Arsenal, and Jesus Walks. You guys know that already. What you might not know is how we were very close to getting a 4th single, and this all stemmed from a tweet on December 3rd, 2012, when Ian said he was preparing to shoot a music video for what was supposed to be the album's 4th single, Some Days. Interestingly, Lee Gaze was the only other member that was at the video shooting, as the plan was for the rest of the band to appear in archive footage. Don't know how that would have turned out. This of course came crashing down when Ian got convicted 2 weeks later. It is now unlikely that the video, or whatever was filmed for it, will ever surface. Sampler CDs. In the early days, Lostprophets put out a few sampler CDs to generate hype for the fake Sound of Progress. The first, Demo Sampler Volume 1, was released in 2001, along with a second, Album Sampler Volume 1, presumably released around the same time. The third CD, A Taste of Lostprophets, actually uses the same album cover as the fake Sound of Progress, but with the bottom text replaced. Although not a CD, there is a promo VHS titled Visual Sampler Volume 1, which was released in, you guessed it, 2001. This contains a music video of Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja, portions of Cobra Kai and 5 is a 4-letter word, and the fake Sound of Progress music video. Since then, the first CD is fairly common, but the second and third CDs, as well as the VHS, are hard to find. Interestingly, on the cardboard sleeve of the promo VHS, it shows the band as being from Cardiff instead of Pontypridd. It's only speculation, but this was likely assumed from their performance at Cardiff Bogies, which according to Setlist FM, ceased to exist in 2000. Sample Cassette Volume 1. Also known as the Fake Sound of Progress EP, this was a single-sided promo cassette released in 1999. It contained 5 songs, those being the title track The Fake Sound of Progress, MOAC Supreme, Stop Quote, Directions, and A Taste of Things to Come. All but one of the songs were reworked into the final album and its singles, albeit they only appeared in the original version. A title track was of course the title track of the final album. The track MOAC Supreme was reworked into 1,000 Apologies. Stop Quote was presumably re-recorded and retitled as Awkward. And finally, Directions was released as part of the Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja single. As far as I know, the final song, A Taste of Things to Come, was not re-recorded or re-released in any form. Since then, the EP has remained out of print, but it was recently made available on Spotify as the Fake Sound of Progress EP. And with that, we are almost done. On to the final layer. Initial EPs. Before the Fake Sound of Progress, Lostprophets put out 3 EPs, all of which were single-sided. The first of these was Here Comes the Party, released in 1997. A second, creatively titled EP was put out the next year in 1988. And the last one was the aforementioned The Fake Sound of Progress EP in 1999. Since at least 2000, all of these have remained out of print and have basically become collectibles. Rooster. This refers to a video from 2009 where the band covers the song Rooster, originally written by Alice in Chains. For those unfamiliar, this song comes from their 1992 album Dirt. According to Setlist FM, this is the only time it was covered live on November 20th, 2009 at the Union Chapel in London. The fan recording unfortunately does not contain the full song as it cuts out near the end and it's missing a little bit of the intro. But it's still interesting nonetheless, and you should go check it out if you want to. New song. At both the Old Frit Festival and Glastonbury in 2002, the band performed a then new song, which would go on to be an early version of Our Broken Hearts. Former, which you are about to see, is the only footage of it as far as I could find. For these next 3, I will be using unrelated footage of Lostprophets as not much is known about these entries. But hey, that's why they're at the bottom of the iceberg. Aftermath. Aftermath is a short-lived band and the first of 3 bands that Ian and Mike were in before Lostprophets. The band played in a shed in Ian's garden, made only 2 live appearances and never recorded any material. Were, however, based around thrash metal, for example Megadeth. After 2 years, this idea was abandoned in favor of the next entry. Fleshbind. This is the second band Ian formed, this time with Lee Gaze. This time, the band was centered around American hardcore punk. Unlike Aftermath, this band played a variety of shows and was the supporting act for the Welsh-Japanese rock band Feeder for a show in London. Much like the previous band, however, it too was quickly forgotten about, and thus we come to the last band on this list. Public Disturbance. Public Disturbance was a metalcore band and the final band Ian was in, joined by Mike before forming Lostprophets. Unlike the band we all know, Ian was actually the drummer in this band as opposed to being the lead singer. This was in 1995. 2 years later, Ian and Lee formed what is now Lostprophets, and thus Ian left Public Disturbance. Originally, Ian wasn't going to be the singer, but they couldn't find one, so we decided to fill in the role of lead singer. Subsequently, Mike Chiplin would take Ian's place on drums. But just imagine what that could have been if they had found a lead singer and Ian never switched from drums. How would the songs have sounded then? We can only speculate. As an addendum, all 2 EPs are available on YouTube if you want to go check them out. It will be in the description below. DJ Stepsack. DJ Stepsack was the band's original DJ, who worked with the band on The Fake Sound of Progress, both the album and the EP, presumably. However, shortly after the album had finished, he decided he wouldn't commit to the band and he left not long after. In turn, he was replaced by Jamie Oliver. No, not that Jamie Oliver. Unfortunately, there's not that much to say about him, which is why he's at the bottom of the iceberg. Lostprophets. This was the original name of the band when it was first formed in 1997 and was used on the first 2 EPs. Other than that, there's like nothing to it. It's just Lostprophets but with Z's instead of S's. Only one recording from this time period has surfaced, recording of their show at Cardiff Bogies from November 5th, 1987, which you are seeing now. This show was available in full on YouTube. The band knew about Ian. And finally, to end things off, I'm going to discuss this conspiracy theory. The theory goes that supposedly, Lostprophets knew the heinous actions that Ian was up to behind the camera. I mean, if he was a part of the band, he had to have mentioned it at some point, right? As mentioned in the previous layer, in this MySpace interview, a user asks Ian what his guilty pleasure is, to which he supposedly responds, "You just answered it." I'm gonna add on to that here. It's hard to tell from the other band members talking over him, but if you listen real closely, it sounds more like he's saying, "I just answered it."
Baby girl, what's your guilty pleasure?
Right, said Fred.
I just answered it in amongst the
Right, said Fred.
people watching it like,
Did he say what? I didn't hear it.
that's good.
Was it?
And actually, earlier in the interview, you can hear him answer the question as saying heroin.
What's your guilty pleasure?
I'd want to have a
Baby.
Baby girl,
Knowing this, and in no way am I trying to defend him here, we can likely conclude this was all just a misunderstanding. The truth is, though, there actually isn't any concrete evidence of this. In a metal injection article, the band had this to say, quote unquote, "Many of you understandably want to know if we knew what Ian was doing. To be clear, we did not." In the same article, it is also stated that Ian wasn't the easiest person to work with. Their relationship with him had gone to the point where, quote, "working together was a constant miserable challenge," end quote. It got to the point where Stuart Richardson ended up going to his children's school to set their record straight, according to a PRP article. To get an idea of the situation from this band's perspective, I think this quote sums it up best. Quote, "Imagine you had a job and then someone immediately stopped your job, stopped all your payments, and then took away all your money you had for your future. And everyone's like, screw them, they knew about Ian. You're like, oh my god, you have no idea what we lost. You would never like, I'm still dealing with that today. I'm trying to figure out what to do next." That's not its own entry in the iceberg, but I'm going to mention it here to end it off. Imagine an alternate timeline where Ian was given the boot. All this drama was averted and Lostprophets stayed around for a couple more years. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? But what if I told you that this was so close to happening? In the same article from the missed show entry from Layer 2, Richardson would again delve into the band's crippling relationship with Ian in the final years, where he said the following, quote, "Towards the end of 2009 to 2011, we realized Ian had a depressingly sad drug addiction. It just snuck up on us, because unfortunately we were living in LA and he was living back home in Wales. We didn't see him 9 months of the year, and we realized how bad it was, and we had an intervention with him. And we said, look, if you don't clean up your act, you're out. This band is done. So in 2012, finally he got his stuff together and we went on a Warped Tour. And he was sober and he was singing better than he'd ever sung in his life," end quote. then mentions an abysmal performance of Start Something, the album, in Cardiff. He would then say this, quote, "I've never been so embarrassed in my life as playing that show. He didn't move for the whole set, sung the wrong words. It was like, this is our legacy. This is supposed to be the thing we're remembered for, and you want to set up our future by doing this badly? This sucks." So we all wanted to quit after that show. We were like, "Look, you gotta figure your stuff out. Otherwise, you're out of here." End quote. Now, this is an insane what-if scenario to consider. What if Ian didn't get himself together and he was given the boot? Would Rickley have joined the band at that point? If not, who would have filled in the role of Ian? How much longer would the band have lasted? Would we have gotten a follow-up to Weapons? Would No Devotion be a side project then, or would it not exist at all? So many questions. But yeah, just imagine that. A couple more years of Lost Prophets without Ian, a follow-up to Weapons that the rest of the band wanted. Maybe they could have dabbled in the electronic music scene that was all the rage at the time, and No Devotion wouldn't be a thing for a few more years, if ever. What a timeline we could have lived in if Ian had simply been given the boot earlier. And that's the end of the video. So, I know this ended up kind of long. I didn't mean for it to be this long, but there was just so much I wanted to put in this. Yeah, it's gonna be it for this video. That's pretty much all there is to say, so see you in the next one.
Everybody Screaming is about Angharad on a Friday and Saturday night.
It's just up there.
It's just up there. Right. Most of the songs, there's something in there from us growing up, definitely.
The good thing is, when we started the tour, we started off in the Mooney, this tour, and we'd end in today, Ponty Park.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
About 13 months then.
Yeah.
13 months.
13
months tour, book ended with fabulous Pontypridd